I never expected a single murmur to change how I looked at everything, yet that's exactly what happened. It had been a long, disjointed day at the lakeside cottage where we were staying for the weekend. The plan was meant to be simple: my husband, his teenage son from his first marriage, and me, spending time together in the quiet woods. There was no phone signal, only the sound of the wind rustling through the pines and the occasional creak of the old cabin. Peaceful. At least that's what it was supposed to be. After dinner, I stayed in the kitchen tidying up, the smell of wood smoke and cedar clinging to the air. That's when I heard it. My name. Barely audible, uttered softly like it wasn't meant for anyone to hear. I froze, a dish halfway rinsed in my hands. My stepson, Leo, had said it. His voice was low, uncertain, but threaded with something I couldn't quite place. Curiosity pulled me closer to the narrow hallway. I moved quietly, keeping my steps light so the old wooden floor wouldn't betray me. Another voice, someone else's, responded, muted and serious, but I couldn't make out the words. "She's not how I imagined," Leo whispered again after a pause. "It's getting harder to keep up the act." A chill worked its way up my spine. Were they talking about me? And what exactly was he pretending? I knew I shouldn't keep listening, but I couldn't move. "She hasn't realized yet," he said softly. "But I think she's starting to sense it." My heartbeat thumped so loudly I worried they would hear it. I stepped back, too quickly, and a floorboard betrayed me with a loud crack. I didn't wait. I hurried back into the kitchen, trying to force my face into something neutral. When they returned a few minutes later, I was still drying my hands, pretending I'd been too busy to overhear a thing. That night the three of us sat in the living room by the fireplace. My husband, Marcus, drifted off to bed early, worn out from the long drive. That left just Leo and me, the firelight flickering between us. I couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't quite right. He wasn't looking at me the way a Stepson should. There was a quiet intensity in his eyes, restrained but undeniable. "You looked like you wanted to say something earlier," he said suddenly. I jerked my gaze toward him, startled. "When?" I asked, though I knew perfectly well. "When I passed you in the hallway," he replied, his voice steady. So he had noticed. I opened my mouth but no words came. Finally, I managed a small shrug. I thought I heard something, but it wasn't important. He studied me, his expression unreadable. "Not every whisper is a secret," he said after a pause. "Sometimes it's just us trying to figure out if we're the only ones who feel it." I didn't know what he meant, or maybe I did and didn't want to face it. The next morning felt different. Leo was withdrawn, almost guarded, as though something had shifted between us. Marcus was still asleep upstairs, so Leo and I ended up sitting at the kitchen table alone, sipping coffee in silence. Then he leaned closer, speaking so softly I almost missed it. "Do you trust me?" The question hit me like a wave. "What kind of question is that?" "A serious one," he said quietly. I hesitated, then nodded. "I think so." "Then come with me for a minute," he said. I should have refused. Every part of me told me not to, but I stood up anyway. We stepped outside onto the porch. The early morning fog curled through the trees, and the air was cool and damp. Leo led me down a narrow trail behind the storage shed. We didn't go far, just enough to lose sight of the cabin. When we stopped near a fallen tree trunk, he turned to face me. "You weren't supposed to overhear me yesterday," he said. "But since you did, you should know I meant it." I swallowed hard. "Meant what?" I don't know how to be around you anymore, he admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. Every time you're near me, the lines blur, and I forget how I'm supposed to act. I looked away, my heart pounding. That's not something you should ever say. I know, he said, nodding. But it's the truth. The forest around us went silent, as if the trees themselves were listening. I never planned any of this, he added after a moment. I just started noticing. The way you notice me, even when you try not to. I shook my head. This can't happen. I'm not asking for anything, he said softly. I just needed you to understand. I turned back toward the cabin, desperate to escape the tangled emotions flooding me. But then a sharp noise split the air, a branch snapping underfoot. We froze. Did you hear that? I whispered. Leo nodded, scanning the trees, his body tense. Someone was out there. And in that instant, I knew we weren't supposed to be seen together. Not here, not like this.